give honor to the ancestors. We give honor, excuse me, to the youth, and we give and we honor African life. So, to honor our ancestors, before I get started, I would like to ask permission from the eldest African here today for me to get started with our presentation. And the eldest one is not me. I'm 65 in 1 month, so I can't be the eldest one here, I don't think.
I'm the elder. How about that?
We're the elder. Give permission.
And do I have permission to begin? Thank you. All right. We honor our youth, so would the youngest African child or the children please stand up or be held up? Let's give them a hand. And in honor of African life, we normally ask that a sister who's carrying life in her sacred womb or heaven also please stand. And if she's not here today, that means they're at the hospital and they're delivering. And so we still give blessing to them today too. One thing we do have to learn though, we need to teach our women how when they sign that birth certificate, you must write all rights reserved above your signature on that document. Otherwise, you are volunteering your child away forever to the state. So we must teach our young women, you must sign your name correctly on the document. If you don't, the state owns your child. That's why they can walk in and take them from you or do anything to you up until they're 18 years old. Okay. If we quote Dr. King, there is nothing more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. We have a responsibility to be intelligent. And in ancient Kemet, Tamari, ignorance was equated with evil. We are African, and we forget that. If we free our minds to that thought, our behinds will follow us. And it's amazing how many of us don't want to follow that thought pattern. Just to show you some aspects of myself, my life, my mother and father, me graduating from high school, teaching high school, meeting the great author Ayikwe Ama when I was teaching at Morris Brown College. These are some of the people I went to school with, some fantastically smart black people, and they're all neuroscientists. They all teach at the medical school, and the young lady who's standing next to me, she's now chairman of the Department of Physiology at Howard University. So it's some bad people that we know, very, very bad people. My trip to Kemet, I got on the camel, but my wife would not. Some of my teachers, I'm going to call out their names later on at the end of the libation, but I wanted to show some of the pictures of them. Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, the famous, the reason we're here today is the Honorable Julius Mosiah Garvey. There is no true social revolution without the liberation of women. How can we have a liberation movement and the women are not involved? And then at the bottom, a lie doesn't become truth, wrong doesn't become right, and evil doesn't become good just because it's accepted by a majority. The will must be stronger than the skill. And that's what we're trying to develop. We're trying to develop our minds, our will about who we are. You must learn a new way to think before you can master a new way to be. So we're trying to change our thinking. To be rich is not what you have in your bank account, but what you have in your heart. And on the right, when spiders unite, they can tie down a lion. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to unite so that we can tie down this lion. You can't see the top. It says, change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. At the top, it says, a person who is always facing his audience is never afraid of the truth. And that's a quote by the Honorable Marcus Garvey. On the bottom, it says, the best way to predict the future is to create it. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create our warriors for now and in the future. As Brother Ross Kofi says, once information is given, there are no longer victims, only volunteers. So we must educate ourselves and stop volunteering to this madness that we've been in. The general subjects covered, and usually that's in a long lecture that I give. We don't realize that South is up for black people. Literally, the top of planet Earth is the South. It is not the North. When they put the Hubble telescope up in space in the 90s, and it took pictures of everything around our solar system, the information came back and said, you guys got it upside down. North is the bottom of planet Earth. South is the top of planet Earth. And we chiseled that, our ancestors chiseled that in stone well over 6,000 years ago. And we still can't come and comprehend these types of things that we have been raised up on. And we have to change them around. We must change them around. One of the few quotes that I use from the King James Version, and he says, and when demanded of the Pharisees when the kingdom of God should come, he answered them and said, the kingdom of God cometh not with observation. Neither shall they say, lo here or lo there. For behold, the kingdom of God is within you. And we keep forgetting that. We keep calling out to God, but we don't have nothing to do with the Spirit in ourselves. And that is wrong. That's an incomplete belief. But they have us believing like that. Sorry, you can't see the top. It says the majesty of Africa, the beauty of yourself. We're on a continuing mental and spiritual exploration to help raise a beautiful people back to the level that they were on. We have forgotten that we really are the universe. The all is mind. The universe is mental. Use your mind to examine and create. When I take these pictures to school and show them to the children, they can't believe, first of all, they've never heard of a black angel. And then to see a black angel just blows their mind. Then when they see these black angels, one of them on the right is doing some chemistry and is dealing with the atoms and the molecules of the earth. The brother on the left side is measuring the universe with his yardstick. And this is normal and natural, and had been normal and natural until we ran into groups of people that decided to change this behavior pattern of ours. What did we do with our minds? We built pyramids and temples. We built the step pyramid of Saqqara with the world's first multi-genius. We built an airplane, a glider, that's 2,200 years older than what the Wright brothers built. So this is the kind of things that we do with our minds when we have somebody that lets our minds go free. The inner coffin of King Tut. All I can say is look at that artwork on the right-hand side of that picture. Imagine being good enough to do that yourself. That's incredible. The inside of the jar, the Kanaki jar, is inscribed everywhere on the inside of the jar and on the outside of the jar. Yes, we did have many musical instruments, including trumpets, and we made glass of many colors. The Dogon people of Mali even plotted the orbit of the Sirius star system. They did this over 600 years ago. They didn't have computers and stuff to help them with that. Here's the world's first calendar system coming from Kenya. Stones in the ground that point to different stars and constellations in the sky. That's how we told time. And then we passed that on to someone else. We invented telling time. We had time measured out in many thousands of years. We even had the great year, which was 25,900 years, that we measured different aspects of time. We even, and it's not an invention, it's a measurement. The African first did the measurement of 1 second. That's African measurement. 1 second of time is the African measurement. That's not European. We even developed concepts for medicine, for triage, how you treat a disease. Do you cure it? Do you play with the ailment? Or do you do nothing? And the person will either die or they will cure themselves. And we want to fault drug companies today for all the drugs that they try to put on us. The Ebers Papyrus showed that the African of the Nile Valley had 876 pharmaceutical preparations of 12 or more ingredients each. We were the world's first drug makers for different ailments that we had. So it's not like we have not had ailments. This is the Kung people of the Kalahari, and they're doing community storytelling and community healing. The sisters would sit in the middle and sing their songs, and the brothers would walk around the sisters, and they would reach such a high fever pitch of spirituality that they captured the actual living spiritual essence that still exists on planet Earth. And we can still do these dances and sing these songs and come up with healing energy. And they call it boiling energy. And once you can reach this level of boiling energy, then you can go hug somebody and take the disease right out of their body. Mm-hmm. European medicine cannot figure out how we are doing that even today. But that's something that is a part of us as the first people who are on the earth. And this is what we need to get our children to understand, because we want to awaken the natural genius of the black child. It's a natural genius. It's not a fake genius. And we want to awaken that genius. We were the first to do mining. They found mines in ancient Zimbabwe that go back between 40 and 70,000 years. We took stuff out the ground and changed its physical characteristics into something that we could use in our regular life. We were the first to write and to leave our drawings on rocks, going back well over 100,000 years. At the bottom is the King's List. The King's List lists all of the pharaohs that existed in the Nile Valley up until the time that they were invaded. So you know who your rulers were. You know how much time they were on the throne. Dumb people don't do stuff like that. Now, because of submarines, we found that the temples and the pyramids extend out from the coast into the oceans, and they're in 200 and 300 feet of water. And the last time that this land was underwater, they estimate that it was about at 10,000 BC. So we've been building for a long period of time. And when the European researchers go underwater and look at this, they say, nah, that's not cut stone. The waves did that, you know. Black people couldn't have been doing nothing back then. Why not? Because we said so. And the God that they used already told them to destroy us and enslave us in perpetuity. So we're not supposed to know things like that. We're supposed to just keep moving along. The statue of the eyes on the right, that looks like one of the statues that you would find on Easter Island. Those giant statues that are standing up there. All of this is underwater. So our people did all of this before the ice melted and rose the level of the ocean on the planet Earth. If you go to Lalibela in Ethiopia, you can see the rock-cut temples that are dug from the top of the ground down into the solid rock. These are the rock-hewn temples of Lalibela. And it just so happens the Ethiopian Christian religion has 72 books, whereas the Christian religion in America only has 38. Now that's a philosophical question that can be dealt with. Here, if we go to the Chapel of Newt, we see the female, the guardian of the sky, up on the ceiling of the Chapel of Newt. And the African man put that up there, and he said that not only was the African woman my queen, she was the mother of the sun itself. So it's the woman that's the mother of the universe. But they taught us to call God a man. And man, we get pissed off if you tell us anything about God being a female. Oh no. We can't go back to that tradition. We need to stay the way we are now. Deaf, dumb, and blind. This is a glyph that you can find on one of the temple walls over in Kemet. And it talks about the greatest Aset, the godmother, or the mother of God. We keep forgetting that. You know, it was a little baby, had a mama, changing diapers every day, till it got to be a little bit bigger. But because we are men who like other men, we have taught people to disregard the female. How will you live your life? What kind of things will you do during your life? Will the things that you believe in, will they be a foreigner's belief pattern? Or will they be your people's genetic belief pattern? And they have been very convincing to convince us, I ain't no damn African. What? You can't do nothing else. Since when did giraffes stop being giraffes? This is a picture of the 42 admonitions of my aunt. This is where the early Christians took their 10 Commandments from. And if you look at those, sometime we read them. They have very deep moral aspects to what these words are. These were written at least when the calendar was made in 4241 BC. And at that time, they knew then. Number 27. I have not committed acts of impurity or sodomy. Sodomy is a European thing.
That's right.
So some of the things we believe in, we need to pick them up again. This one says, how do you oppress a people while convincing them that you are liberal, benevolent, and on their side, while claiming to be of the faith? And that's what we've been victims of. Skinning and grinning, people skinning and grinning at us, and have never been on our side. The left side says Africa then, the right side says Africa now. They still have chains on us. Now those chains are made out of digits. Thanks so much for killing your own race, nigga. That's what's at the top that you can't see. And you know how we've been taught? N-words ain't doo-doo.
Mm-hmm.
So the man that enslaved us, raped us, took all of our land, he's cool. But anything that looked like us is decrepit. Ain't doo-doo, and it's worth just putting a cap in it. Because he ain't nothing nowhere. As Sister Soldier says, I am African first. I am black first. I want what's good for me and my people first. And if my survival means your total destruction, then so be it. And what was one of the quotes Brother Garvey gave us? If the Negro is not careful, he will drink in all the poison of modern civilization and die from the effects of it. And then on the right, what does it say? After they destroyed their minds for over 400 years, they decided to take physical chains off. Well, once I have your mind, you'll go to the back door. Paul Robeson was very dedicated to his people. And one of the quotes from him is that in my music, my plays, my films, I want to carry always this central idea: to be African, multitudes of men have died for less worthy ideals. It is even more eminently worth living for. There can be no greater tragedy than to forget one's origin and finish despised and hated by the people among whom one grew up. To have that happen would be the sort of thing to make me rise up from my grave. Here's a picture of what has been painted into our heads. For Negroes, self-hatred is a point of pride. Don't tell me I'm no African. Although every cell in my body is packed with DNA that's screaming African. Don't tell my mind I'm an African. We need our own. That's why we're doing this. We're trying to prepare the minds of our children to be our own. And yes, a long walk to freedom, especially when your most eminent example of how to be is a British attorney. I can't believe the brother said that, but it's in his book. That was his highest aspiration, is to mimic British attorneys. And of course, black men, obsolete, single, and dangerous, that's what is pumped on us every day. There are two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. This was Albert Einstein. And then at the bottom, we see what's the result of a brother and what his brothers did to him, and another brother has to help him clean himself. Okay. At the top, the greatest part of the people on the coast of Africa are savages and barbarians. They are without industry or arts. Then for that same person to say that the Egyptians were the best philosophers in the world, what does this mean? It means what was found in Egypt, in the Nile Valley of Africa, and other parts of Africa conflicted with the Negro inferiority myth. See, everybody has to believe in that, especially the Negro. He has to believe he's inferior. We're living at a time where governments are checking babies' growth. This says checklist will measure British babies' growth. And I took this out of a newspaper almost 10 years, 2008. The Early Years Foundation said this stuff will take place in 2008. So that was 11 years ago that the British government started measuring the children that are born within Britain. And if you don't have certain milestones reached at certain ages, then you're going to be kept out of society or put out there on the farm just to do menial labor. And this country is going in the same direction. What are we going to do about that for our children's sake? This says, give life to the dead. We want to lift them up from a dead level to a living perpendicular. We got a lot of people running around on the dead level. And we're trying to get in their minds and change their behaviors. Why? Because we want them to be born again Africans. And how do you do that? By the renewing of our minds. For the children, this is what we need. We need some superheroes for Pan-Africanism. And where does it start? In your mind. Get the idea in your mind and it may happen. Why do we do this? You all know Brother Musiki Scales and his Common Ground Collective. We are the river's banks, the flowing water. We determine what's delivered downriver. What we going to deliver downriver? Some doodle or some wholesome 100% proud, strong, intelligent children? That's what we're trying to do. Why would someone make themselves look different than what they are? And then why are all the noses broken off of the statues throughout Egypt? You know, they can tell us by them big sweet lips and that big old nose. So if we knock the noses and the lips off the statues, then when we tell that lie that the Egyptians was European, they don't have nothing really to back it up. Look at that nose and them lips. No, that ain't no European. The beautiful people, the first people on earth. We're not taught any of this. We're taught to call them very poor names instead of very beautiful names. The wonders of Heromachus. That's one of the 9 names of the Sphinx. Asking, do you remember? Do you remember that you were the first people on earth? Do you remember that you were the first people to write, to walk, to talk, to build massive structures? And we have to go back to remembering that. Trees not trimmed don't make good timber. Children not educated don't make useful adults. And you all know we got a bunch of children running around here today that don't care about nothing. And what good are they going to be for us in the future? This is what I studied in school, the brain. It was the most difficult subject I had encountered, so I thought if I studied this, then I would get afraid. I would get rid of my fear of studying, and I have. But what this says is what goes in your brain comes out in the form of a behavior. So if we keep letting lies go in our brains, what kind of behaviors is that going to keep reinforcing? See, we want the truth. A mind attacked and conquered is easily led away from the path of its own soul. Dr. Bobby Wright. And we've been led away from the path of our own soul. If you get a chance, look at the movie They Live. When you look through the glasses and look at the person standing behind the lectern, he looks like a goblin. And that's what the movie shows you. That if you just put on these glasses, you'll be able to see the real, true devils and goblins that exist in the world. Amen. So if we change our minds, we will change our behavior. And then if you notice on the glasses, it's got obey. We're supposed to just obey. Ignorance is strength, freedom is slavery, and war is peace. Everything is upside down. Why? Because they're trying to maintain the black man and woman enslaved in chains forever. That's what you call normal. That's not normal to me. Maintaining this at all costs. You know, they had the big march down Washington, D.C. in 1925 where they had 40,000 Ku Klux Klansmen walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. That's what you see on the top left. And why are they doing that? Same reason this current president, I was going to use another word, don't want no more foreigners coming over here. This is a white land, and we want to keep it white. And I know that hurts y'all feelings, but, he don't care. This was a white land. We established this for white people. And we tend to forget that. Okay, the issue of black survival in America. Ooh-wee, that's a good book. How are we going to survive in here when everything about us is on the other side, so to speak? They have no rights. The story of the Dred Scott decision. They have no rights because they're not citizens of the country. That's what our law said. That's why they had to come up with a special addition to the Constitution and an amendment to give us paper rights, if you will, not real wholesome rights. And that's where they stand. They haven't changed their mind. If you look at, I got a picture in here later. If you look at, I'll come to it. The slave codes. Slaves did not accept their fate without protest. What? You can't make me a slave and I'm going to stay here and like it? No. But laws were passed, positive laws that said we couldn't do nothing. You couldn't teach nobody to read or write, especially a slave, because I will kill you if I find you with a book in your hand. Not only the one trying to do the reading, but the one trying to do the teaching. Mm-hmm. They're talking about terrorism all over the world except for the terrorism that happened on United States soil. Happens. Better word. Happens. And it's like, they're criminals, so ain't no terrorism. We just doing them a favor And we doing our great white mamas a favor. We getting y'all off the street. And that's not called terrorism. The 3 million black and brown people locked up right now for nonviolent crimes in the United States. That's not called terrorism. We're being taught that that is normality. That's not normality. New York Times Magazine. What does they say? They are telling us if you refuse to be slaves, we will kill you. Sound like they quoted the Bible. Go look at Deuteronomy 20, 10 through 20. That's what it says. If you refuse to be a slave, we will kill you. That was on the New York Times Magazine. When was this? May 24th, 2016. And the little book at the top, Globalization of Poverty, this is what the money people are instituting on every country on earth today. And we have to do something about that. This just shows some of the people that have been killed in the last 120 years or so. Christians. But see, my God as a Christian told me that you were doo-doo, and I have the right to flush that doo-doo. And they're still
But
doing
God
it.
so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that who should ever believe him should not be able to have everlasting
Well, that's a
life.
different story. They haven't
That's the
changed.
same
The
story.
Supreme,
That's
the,
a Christian story.
the Supreme Court of the United States
Who cares what
still
Supreme
has
Court?
the doctrine of
That's what
discovery
we believe.
down as the official laws of the United States.
The laws are broken every day.
Well, I understand. They just broke some laws.
They broke the laws when they came and took us
Well,
out of Africa.
Look how many millions they done killed with what you just quoted.
Let's talk about what's the principle for today.
Well, I'm about to read the libation, so you'll get to the rest of the principle.
Thank you.
And I didn't make these up, so. These are the people that got shot and killed down at that bar down in Florida. Why did they die? How come that 100 million Native Americans have been killed off by these people? And all the rest. Should the KKK be labeled as a terrorist group? Black men, obsolete, single, and dangerous. And that's what we have going on. And I feel so sorry for my sisters out there. Because there's some brothers out there that just do not know how to act. And the conspiracy to destroy our boys is in full effect. It's our responsibility to do something about that. Instruction in youth is like engraving in stone. That's a Moroccan proverb. When you look at educational principles coming out of the Nile Valley, they call the student fine gold. That's how important